Hello and welcome to the next lesson in the Fearshid King. What we're going to look at today is we're going to look at the second part of our offense, or what we call the thrusts. Now, looking at the weapon, you will notice that we have this bit and this bit. Now, if you imagine a pool cue, all of the strength is in the tips. So if you put some thrust into this, then it's actually going to do some harm. Now, this isn't a sword, and I know we say this a lot, but not just is it the fact that we can hit anywhere. I can't gently lay my weapon into my opponent and expect him to die. It's not going to work. I actually have to put some welly into this. I have to put some force in. And the way I will do this, first of all, safety first. I will hold it with Lego hands so I don't kill Ian. But it's not a case of just gently laying. It's a case of putting some force in. Now, what I actually have to do is I have to throw the weapon, almost like a punch, for that same sort of, I'm thrusting it, I'm putting some force behind this because I want this to land with kinetic energy. I want this to hit, I want this to hurt. And there are 4 real thrusts. Now, they all have their own special names. However, quite frankly, I don't think it matters for the sake of what you're doing. First of all, what we'll call is the pick thrust. Now, it's called the pick thrust because you will notice that this bit here, you're holding in a sort of ice pick grip. Now, I just call this the underhand thrust. Now, this is great in circumstances where I'm coming into my opponent, so if my opponent comes in for this side and I catch, there's not much I can do, but if he's coming in for this side, I can come through, thrust. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be into the sternum, it can be lower, or it can even be into the throat. And indeed, there is a rather nasty trick. So the attack comes into this side, I catch, I throw through, I strike. Or, if it comes into this side, I catch, I come all the way up into the jaw, then I thrust into the throat. Now, that's the pick thrust. That is perhaps the closest, it's the shortest range, it's the one which requires a little bit more forethought before you put it into work. The next one is what we call the dart thrust, or the part where we're using one hand to thrust forward. Effectively what I've just been demonstrating at the start of this video. So if the attack comes in here, I can catch and come through. And again, I'm going to have to put some welly into that, but that's over the top. Now, equally, if the attack comes in the other way, great, I can catch, come through. And I may have to put some force in, but maybe my opponent is just threatening, maybe he's coming in. I can come through quite quickly with that. Just by throwing it with some force, I can actually take that thrust. So that's what we call the dart thrust. Now, if you remember the stance for Fearshid, is you'll have this hand here. Now, obviously, this is for sacrifice throws, it's for fending off, it's for a whole list of different things. But it's not necessarily, that's not the only thing it's there for. So, if an attack comes into this side and I catch, my hand should be here, and there's a reason. Because I can suddenly, with a very short movement, move into a two-handed thrust. And with that, I can put some welly into a thrust. I can turn this into what we call a spear thrust. Personally, I would just call it a two-handed thrust. Now, that's not the only two-handed thrust, because equally, if it comes in low and I catch, if it comes in high again and I catch, I can drop, turn, thrust, or if it comes into this side, catch, move round, thrust. Again, it's a two-handed thrust. This is the bayonet thrust because the offhand is forward. If the offhand is back, then it's a spear thrust. Again, it's a thrust. I wouldn't get too caught up on the technicalities of it. But one of the things that it can be used is it can be used to change direction. So if an attack's coming in for my head and I catch it high, I can come in very quickly with something to the face. If an attack comes in here, I can grab, come through quite quickly with an attack to the sternum. It's a quick start, and I'm deliberately going slow with this so that I'm not actually applying any kinetic energy, because it will do harm. But those are the basic cuts. What we're going to look at next time is we're going to look at putting it all together. So I hope to see you then.